Hey guys, and welcome to the Igloo, and today we're going to be talking about a different type of subject matter that has brought a lot of attention to myself, as well as to a lot of my PMs, as well as some comments that were in some of my videos, and that is the object of Fallout 76 turning free-to-play, and my personal thoughts about what is going to be good and bad. So this originally originated with the quartering, about showing this up and having like EB Games in different areas that are pulling like the stock ones off the shelves. And with some of my own experiences, especially with GameStop, including the one that's in my region, having some of their copies even being out and about in the garbage, as well as some of their other copies with their Xbox X, where they have a physical disc as well as a digital disc attached to it on top of it, which is kind of funny. So they're giving you 2 free copies of the game, and you can even look on their website on top of everything else, where you don't need to have a physical image of it because it's in their description of this as well, where it's just like they're giving another copy of the game away so that you can play with your friend or something like that. Now, to be fair, again, this is a very niche thing where a lot of people are going to be pissed off about, but at the same time, I feel like it needs to be addressed. So most people don't realize what would actually affect like the actual in-game economy and how everything else is when it comes to like this game going free to play. So one of the major things that is going to be a thing is that flag system for all that duping, and with mass crafting, even with just having 30 pieces of something, maybe you're trying to like break down like maybe 30 gamma guns so that you can get that one mod for that gamma gun to make it like auto fire or whatever. So that whole thing will just be bypassed. You know what? You just have to make another account and then you do it all over again. Just make sure you drop all the stuff, as you know that it's a burner account, and then you would be going from there. And that's going to be one of the biggest issues when it comes to like this free-to-play mechanic that will be coming of Fallout 76, because of AWS services and how they've coded the servers to actually work, is that there is a 5-minute rollback. So no matter what, as long as you are able to find a way to crash the server, and then you're able to just Alt F4 on one of your characters to pick it up, there will always be duping. No matter what, this has happened in every MMO game that has been in existence with an in-game economy. It's just going to happen that way, and there's no way to get around of that unless you prevent rollbacks on top of everything else, and you make sure that nobody gets a rollback, period. And of course, the disadvantages of having no rollback on top of it is that you're going to have to deal with this extra thing called maybe you got a cool legendary and then you lost it. Well, I mean, you're just going to be left to the RNG gods because of how many times the servers crash on top of everything else. But that's a whole nother issue in itself. So then it'll be holding more mass loot will be commonplace. Now beforehand, especially with a lot of people, they've been having that have like 1 mil, 2 mil, 3 mil on just one character alone. And then there was a patch that brought it so that you can only have 1,500 on one character in particular, so that you can actually like have a certain amount for the server stability, because apparently between prefix, suffixes, and everything else, loading everything else onto a cache could cause a server to crash when it comes to having all of that rendered onto one server in particular. So I've noticed that this would be more commonplace, because then all you would need to do is, if you want to hold more stuff, you would label this to be like account 1, like weapon stash 1, weapon stash 2, armor stash 1, armor stash 2, whatever. But that's going to pretty much be entailed to what you would be expecting if this game does go free to play. And again, I would assume that this game would go free to play after some time, because of their promise that they made to the actual community, because in order for you to keep up the capital and the running AWS services, which I will get later on in the video. So the other thing is tricking PvP commonplace for unrateable bases. Now everybody knows that we're going to be having PvP servers at this point, unless you've been living under a rock when it comes to Fallout 76. So with these PvP servers, you're going to be able to trick people and have different alt accounts, or you can have other things to be procced on the same time. Now, if you have a very powerful computer, which people have been doing, is that they've been loading up multiple instances of the game already, currently, on one single PC. Now, if you're fortunate like myself, I do have two PCs. I can actually bank most of my stuff on a separate PC, and then on my main account, I have all this stuff that is like my main stuff. So I do all my selling and stuff on my secondary accounts as well as my primary account, so that I can be able to like negotiate prices and do some good trading. Especially if you want to see the video of what I use for trading, that'll be in one of the tags that is up there floating about in the video. So then the other thing that people are going to be mainly concerned about after that is that you're going to be having the ban team. The ban team would need to get more and more better when it comes to different kinds of things. So you would have to not have the auto ban. You would have to have more staff like indoctrinating and responding to these people that are getting banned on top of it, and to give them a proper response and a proper uptick time to see what has been done, what you can be doing, and all this other stuff, so that you can actually see and show like a proper response to these people, so that you can be like, yeah, this account was a little glitchy, this account, like, that deserves a ban or whatever. But like, especially when it comes down the line, if they go free to play, you need to have a elevated staff to just constantly maintain, just like on what they did for Elder Scrolls Online. You need to have a very active staff when it comes to the ban system. Otherwise, you're going to have a extremely bad problem, because you're always going to have people that are always going to get banned, because this is an MMO. This is not a single player experience like it was in Fallout 3 and Fallout 4. So you're going to have different rules that apply in these types of situations, because it can affect people's PvP experience as well as their PvE experience, because they could like one-shot, maybe two-shot the Scorces Queen with some builds, especially after they fixed the bobblehead patch and a few other things. It's made things a little bit harder, but at the same time, you got to make sure that things are better. Now, this is going to be the lists that are good. Now, you have to look at it as the perspective of the business of Bethesda themselves, okay? Most of this is good for not only the player's experience, so that you can run into the interactivity of meeting different players, different types, and then you also feel like the world would be more alive. So the reason why this is the other part of this is that there would be an influx of players that would be able to purchase from the Atom Shop. If you don't have people playing your game, how are you expecting people to be like getting from the Atom Shop in particular? So that's part of the whole thing. Like, some of these skins are still $18 on the Atom Shop, and they haven't been heavily discounted. Like, some of them went down a little bit, but most of them did not. So it's going to be a very big issue, especially if you don't have the customer base. This is why games like Fortnite and now the new Apex Legends will be doing very well, because it's a free game, you're already in it, but you don't want to grind to get the skin. So you just get the skin anyway, and you use the in-game money for it so that they can still be profitable. That money from all these skins that are coming out from the Atom Shop will be paying for these AWS services, for the upkeep, for these employees that are going to be banning people, and for maybe future content, more so than the game in itself, because of how shitty that it was at launch and how it was appealed and everything else. Now, I know at the same time, I'm not normally negative on my channel when it comes to Fallout 76, because most people don't want to hear about all this negative stuff, but it's out there. I'm not going to have it in my channel, because it's been very well received on all these other news platforms when it comes to finding out what Fallout 76 is and everything else. So, I mean, again, the Quartering's a very good one. He's been as unbiased as I've seen so far, and he's had some really interesting scoops when it comes to doing this. And he's been doing this news thing for a while, so I trust his sourcing on top of it. And he actually bit the bullet recently and bought Fallout 76 and put his money where his mouth is to actually show you guys on how to do this kind of stuff. Now, again, I might not agree to this because I enjoy this game, but it's one of his things that he does not enjoy this game, and he actively says it, and now he has it, so he's able to experience it. So we're going to go down to what AWS is and CloudFront is. So AWS CloudFront is that it dynamically scales based on the amount of infrastructure that people have and for what you're actually doing. So let's say, for example, you have, let's say, 1,000 people that are playing your game, 2,000 people playing your game. Servers will go down to that point to scale to that level, that amount of players. And then it'll make a new server and add up a new server. While it has that, it's very variable when it comes to AWS services, when it comes to servers. So the less population you have, the less upward capital that the company needs to bring out, because there's less people running hardware on their side when it comes to Amazon itself. So that's very particular, where people don't understand that it's not like you're signing a contract like you're doing for, let's say, Conan Exiles, and they were doing G-Portal or something like that, where they are forced to have this amount of servers up because of the contract. AWS is very robust when it comes to that. So again, it's a very smart move when it comes to a very fluctuating base economy, especially on how the servers are designed themselves. So we're going to get into that last little bit that I have is different sources of economy bring others. So let's say, for example, you are from China or something like that, and you want to play this game, and you want to actually have some fun with Fallout 76. The services from AWS will be provided from that server base so that it can keep open on top of most that you can get when it comes to the services that are provided. So because you have that, you have a wider audience, and that's why these free-to-play games like Fortnite and now Apex Legends are extremely popular in these cases, because its initial upkeep is free, and then afterwards, for what you see, is that providing the servers that are given. I don't know what servers that are running Apex Legends, but I do know the servers for Fortnite, which is also Amazon. So it's very important at the very end of the day that you have to know the difference between hardware and software limitations. As Fortnite runs extremely well, Fallout 76 does not, because it, again, the engine and everything else, even while they have it updated, it's just not up to par to other engines concurrently running this kind of software to keep a certain amount of people on the scape of the world environments. Yes, we're talking about two different genres. One is a battlegrounds kind of commonplace, and the other one is an open world survival game with some different points of questing that have been very loosely done with notes and also with holotapes. Yes, it's completely different, but when it comes to an engineering standpoint, especially when it comes to the engine points, it's very similar when it comes to the nuances about what you're doing. You can still build in the game. It's a little bit shittier when it comes to Fallout 76. You can still shoot other players and engage, but their tagging system's a little bit different. And there's still other things that you could be doing, like save the world, but again, that's in a different game mode rather than Battlegrounds mode. So again, when it comes to an engineering standpoint, it's not really different when it comes to following a quest that's very linear. But again, it's not really much to it when it comes to that. So that's why I pretty much call Fallout 76, and I still will call Fallout 76 like an open world survival game at its very core, with some questing and grinding materials that are added into it until we see this new PvP mode, which again, it'll be more open world survival at that point. Again, if you guys like this kind of content, please leave a like, leave a comment down below, and I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of an understanding about what the disadvantages and advantages are for not only the player base, but also for the actual company Bethesda when it comes to if this game does go free to play, because most people don't understand why people actually go free to play, but it's mainly because of longevity, because a price cannot hold a certain point unless the game's really good and very popular and it's a single player experience where it's not affected by others. This is a big difference because Fallout 76 is. So again, have a good one, guys. If you guys really like my stuff, there's a Patreon down below, my Discord's down below, and everything else is down below when it comes to my social. Have a good one, guys.